Hello, everybody. My name is Eden. My friends call me Zar, and welcome to the HoloNet.
Love it.
I'm here with my co-host MJ. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is MJ, and I am just really excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to be talking about a book called Republic Commando, the first of the series, Hard Contact by Karen Travis. Let's get into it. So, in the beginning, we're set right in the middle of the Great Battle of Geonosis. What happens there, MJ?
So, pretty much what happens in the Battle of Geonosis is we are immediately brought into the Battle of Geonosis. It's one of the most bloody battles within the Clone Wars. A lot of lives are lost. But in this, we see one of our main characters, Darman, and his old clone group um, in this battle. And unfortunately, majority of his group dies. All of them die, and he's the last one of his squad, which is really sad. How do you feel about that, Zar?
Makes me feel pretty sad. Darman has a very emotionally driven character. So you see him wait at this LAAT and he's just waiting. He's watching all of the different ships take off and return to the vendor, and he's still looking for his squad, but the squad never shows up all the way up until the last lat that's taken off. You hear the drill sergeant or whoever's in the lat with him calling out to him saying, "Hey, they're not coming back, buddy. If they're not already gone, then they're marked KIA. We got to get out of here." And you see Darman just take on this really heavy emotional weight. Then the surroundings, when he gets back, he feels almost outcasted, doesn't he, MJ?
Well, yeah, I mean, you grow up with this squad, these groups of people, like it's almost like you guys are twins, because I mean, like you guys are, but you're raised together and you're trained together, and yet no matter what, like at the end of the day, it's a war, like you in this book they pay a lot of attention to being bred to die. So I think just Darman coming to the realization that that is true, and that regardless of who you are in the war, or you know where you are, there's still that possibility of death and
Right.
of the eventual loneliness that you feel.
And it really just it hits him hard. He gets
Ah,
approached by a random clone trooper and asked about his weapon. Like, they admire him for that, but that's about all they care to look into. They don't really see him as a brother because they didn't grow up with him. Like, they do recognize that he's still their VOD, but they're just not close with him in that sense. So he feels outcasted immediately. And then he goes on to meet we go on to meet Niner and Fee, and
oh,
that is such a pivotal scene for the entirety of the Republic Commando series because you get to see how they interact in the very beginning. It's their personalities unblended, they're just raw from separate squads. And Niner, he's having trouble coping with this, isn't he, MJ?
yeah, no, it's just it's so hard because everyone, in this new squad that was formed has, lost everyone. So really you're just surrounded by a bunch of, brothers, and in a sense that have gone through the same pain as you, but you're still holding on to that guilt. And I feel like that's what Niner is feeling, that he's been placed in charge of this new group that he feels like he's going to lose again.
Right.
And it's
And
just coming, yeah, that guilt, that survivor's guilt.
he doesn't really respect that, does he? When
uh,
he gets these emotions, he doesn't ever communicate it.
mhm. Well, yeah, because I mean, like he has to be this big leader that knows everything, and like it's just so sad because he's in the same situation as everyone else, as Fee, as Atin, as Darman, and yet he refuses to try and connect with them on that level because you're trained to be above it all. But at the end of the day, you're just human.
Right. Now, Niner, being as cold hearted as he just really doesn't want to show anybody that he's feeling the hit. from Geonosis that everybody is already shown that they felt. Now, then we're introduced to Fee, and
Mhm.
Fee is just the funniest little guy listening to
Oh
his
yeah.
music, singing along to it. And what was Niner's initial thoughts on that? Do you remember?
I don't exactly remember, but just like knowing their dynamic, it was probably really funny. He looked up. I'm sorry. I have the book in my hand. It's just I don't think he doesn't recognize that Fee is the only one because it's like you're he was so almost untouched. Question like he seemed untouched. I guess you know.
Fee
I'm not sure.
really holds on to that Mandoa culture that he grew up with. So
Mhm.
when he's there, he's keeping his positive attitude because it's the one
Mhm.
thing that can distract him from all of those horrible thoughts that he's holding back. Right. So the music really, really helps him. He's just fully focused on it, doing what he can to cope with that trauma. And when they lay there in the bunks, Niner can overhear Fee singing and actually joins in with him because he remembers that same Mandoa culture after immediately thinking that it was stupid. He just really didn't. He did not mess with Fee when they first met.
No, yeah, come on. You lose everyone, you lose your entire family, and then you're placed into like this helicopter to go on a new mission with a new family. And then this guy starts singing and making jokes. Obviously, you're not gonna like him. But I mean, he grew on me. Not grew on me. I loved him immediately. But he grows on them, you know?
Oh yeah, big time. And then we
Yeah.
get pushed out into this LAAT where we're back thrown into the lat, and we see the entirety of Omega Squad here. We get introduced to Atten, and we get a little bit more on Darmin's perspective. And
Mhm.
they're getting briefed by, I believe it's Barden, right?
Was it Barton?
Yeah, I think
I'm
it's
not.
Barden in the first
No
ship,
way.
and he's talking to them about how he wants to see them with their helmets off, which they find very weird.
Mhm.
And he's acknowledging, Darmin's acknowledging that Barden is just he's an omnipotent, omniscient being, right?
Yeah.
He's saying that the Jedi are all knowing and they're basically spoken about as if they're gods amongst the clones. So when he introduced himself and really tries to look for the character between each clone, getting to know their names instead of their numbers, Darwin feels extremely conflicted about how to view them because they've actually been showing that they care to know who they are.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then he's
Yeah.
in this briefing, he gets told at the very end of it, I want to see you back. I'll be interested to hear the report, right? And Darman gets a little confused and he latches onto the last bit and he goes, that's his kind way of wishing us luck and hoping that we make it back, right?
Mhm.
He's not telling us that we're going out there to die. He's telling us that he wishes to speak with us when we return. So that's the
Yeah.
Jedi's way of wishing good luck when they're not really supposed to show any sort of emotion towards the clones.
Yeah. And I think that just like that just goes to show at least Barden and characters like Etain and not so much Zay, but like still there's just such a difference between the Jedi characters within the series and the other Jedi that are shown within like Clone Wars or the movies. It's just there's a sense of not home, but like a comfort knowing that somebody sees you as human and not just as like another like a droid or a number to be thrown away. And I think showing Jedi in that light, Travis does that too. Does it? It's done masterfully. Like it makes their situation that much more tragic.
Right. Now in that tragedy, um they they come out of this big hyperspace and they're above this new planet, Kulora. Now, I remember on the way there, their ship actually got tagged, didn't it? They got into a little bit of trouble.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. Didn't like it exploded, right? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Yeah.
it. I think the wing got clipped while they're flying
Yeah.
in, and they realize they have to crash land.
Mhm.
So Niner's calling for the protocol of jumping out of the ship. He lines up. I think Fee and Atten, they both take their jumps, and then right when Niner's waiting for Darman, Darman's completely unprepared. He's still trying to strap all of the explosives to him.
Mhm. Yeah, because what is
And
Darwin without his explosives?
right, right. So Darman, they explain that he has to do this little wiggle to get out of his seat. Like he gets up and he has to try and force himself up, but he doesn't quite have the strength. So he goes at it one more time and finally gets the courage to just stand up
Mhm.
with all of those explosives strapped to him. And before he can even finish setting all of that up, he actually shoulder bashes Niner right out of the ship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's such an excellent way to introduce, like, Darman's, like, character, I feel like, and it's just it perfectly sets up the dynamic between the squad, since it is their first mission, it is their first, like, crash landing. I don't know, it's just it's a funny interaction as well because you get to see how Niner and Fee and Atin feel about the situation. Um, so yeah, it's just it's really funny seeing how Darman just pushes him off.
Oh, big time. Darman, he really has heart and he doesn't want to risk Niner's life. Like he already values him so much and he's trying to express that they're knocking him off early and disobeying those orders. And he's gonna last second jump out and he knows the timing that well where he's not even he's not even willing to let Niner risk it because he knows Niner has to go last, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So Niners tell him just to leave everything, and he goes, hey, I'm not doing that. Just shoulder bashes him out and jumps, right?
right.
And when we see them all land, we don't get Darman's perspective on that. We don't know if he made it or not. We only hear about
Mhm.
Niners kind of distaste in that, hoping that he's all right, and then Atten telling him to just move on regardless, right? Stay focused.
Yeah, and that that being said, like, I know that we didn't really touch on Atten's character, but, you know, 'cause when you're introduced to all of the characters, you can really tell that if anyone was affected by, losing their squad on Geonosis, it would be Aden because he's just so quiet and so reserved, especially when it comes to Darman. There's like a sense of just giving up. That's not like is he okay? Like where is he? Does anyone have a read on him? It's just like give up and move on, you know? I just think that's really interesting that Travis puts that in there, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. Karen Travis has such an interesting perspective on the clones. Like we really don't get to go this in depth into the Republic Commandos ever. The only time they're ever
Mhm.
mentioned was in the game, right? It's the game in
Yeah.
the Karen Travis books, and that's it. So seeing all of these different squads and all the different emotions expressed through Karen Travis's vision is just it's incredible, really. Now pushed off with the separation between the squads, we're leading closer and closer into Gez Hokan's territory, and I think we get a little bit of his perspective on this. Do you remember exactly what he's doing there on the planet?
From what I remember, Gizhokin is working with the Separatists. I think he was hired by them because he is a bounty hunter, if I remember correctly. Um, he is in charge of protecting this scientist. I forgot
Right.
her name, right? But she's like developing. It's not revealed until later, but she's developing this gas that can kill all the clones. And I just he's a very pivotal character, I believe, because he represents Mandalorian culture as we see it, like I guess not from the Republic Commandos, since they were taught by Cal Skirata, which he's a Mandalorian, but we get another look into that piece of the puzzle, I guess.
Right. And just real quick touch up on Cal Skirata. You can primarily hear about him in the second book,
Right.
but
Yeah.
he has such an interesting connection with the clones.
Yeah. He's like
Go
this
right ahead.
father figure. Yeah. He's like he's the one that trained all of the Republic Commandos, or at least some of them. Him and some other Mandalorians. But throughout the entirety of the first book, we see some of these quotes from him. In the beginning of like some of the chapters, we see quotes. I have one here actually. At the beginning of chapter 6, we see him talk about how he's just like teaching the Republic Commandos to be soldiers, but also have the spirit and this culture that can help them survive throughout their missions. This is predominantly seen within Fee, how he continuously tries to just stay positive and stay focused on a mission. And, it's this undeniable love and care that Cal Skirata puts into these men that he trains, which
Right.
is, yeah, it's just really sweet to see in the second book as well. I know that we're staying on the first one, but even in the second book, if you guys read it, oh my goodness, it just makes their dynamic so much better. It's literally like found family. It's perfect.
It is found
It is
family. I
found
mean,
family.
it's quite fantastic to see the way that they interact with one another, especially when you're introduced to the Knolls and you see the way that they love
Oh
Cal. Like he
yeah. Oh
really did just care about raising the clones. He cared about them as if they
yeah.
were his own kids because of a way bigger trauma we cannot get into right now. But
This is another episode, guys.
we're gonna flash back real quick and kind of touch a little bit on Atton's character. Atton, we didn't really get to discuss about him too much, but now that he gets a proper
Mhm.
um integrated piece within the team, I believe it's time we speak about him. So what do you remember about Atton so far,
What I
Jay?
remember about Adam is he just exudes like this not nervous energy, but just he's pretty quiet. He's very focused on the mission at all times. Sometimes Fee can break that shell, but that's not really seen within the first couple books or like the first couple scenes with him. Um, there's not much dialogue with him. If anything, there's just like him talking about the mission, talking to Niner about like what needs to happen, and then it's all right, ready to go.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And that the dialogue between that and Fee is just something else. They have quite the
Yeah.
connection.
They have
Um,
quite the connection.
we see Fee really starting to stress out when he realizes they're a squad mate down.
Mhm.
And Niner is stressing out way more than the rest of them, but he is not willing to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
He holds it off.
You
I
know,
think he disassociates for a little bit, but then he locks in real quick and he leads them to take cover at some sort of camp. Remember?
mhm.
They set up a
I
little I believe it's like a little stakeout camp where they take out whatever droids were there,
mhm.
and they kind of skip ahead and lead us to where Etane is running to the farmer.
Right, 'cause she's introduced, like, earlier into the book. She's, like, running from, this weak way and, like, all this stuff is happening. She's like, in the mud and dirt and manure for, like, an hour trying to escape from him. But we see Tane, a Jedi or a Padawan, a little Padawan, running to a farmer to try and find help because she had just, escaped from Geshoken, I believe, right? Is that correct?
Right.
Her master, yeah, her master was caught, and they were on this planet Kilara to try and it was to try and stop the scientist, right? To get her information on the smoke that she was creating and try and bring it back to, you know, the order and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, Etane running to the farmer to seek shelter. That is how one of the scenes that were introduced to her. Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And that scene is so powerful because you get to see the way that she cowers away and kind of copes with the situation
Yeah.
later by stuffing down those emotions and really just evading that poor Lee Kuei farmer. I wouldn't say poor; he's not a good person, but
He's not a good person.
that farmer really caused some troubles for them. So they have to duck and hide into these bushes that I think they're like prone crawling across, and
Mhm.
it's the muddy grassy ground of Kilora. It's really not a fun place to be. And
Right.
she
Yeah.
overhears I believe it is the general or manager, whoever was in charge of that farmer, get told to get back to work and that
Mhm.
they're not willing to waste their time with stupid nonsense, they call it.
Yeah.
And for the life of him, he can't find her, so she's out free. Then she goes somewhere. Do you remember where she goes?
Uh, wasn't it like a little small town? And they were being terrorized by like I forgot what they're called, but like the separatists were there, and she was trying to lay low with them, but they were very like hesitant because they don't want to get in trouble and stuff like that. I believe that's
Right.
what I.
And they kind of explained to her how it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, where if
Exactly. Yeah.
they're found whatsoever, they're gonna think that they were harboring the fugitives or the enemy. And if they're not found, then they have to go through all this effort to hide them, right?
Mhm.
So they kind of speak about how Etain isn't a pretty sight for sore eyes, and she isn't the best looking.
Oh.
She's all like muddied up and gross.
Mhm.
And so what? How's her relationship evolved with these two farmers?
Well, initially, it's kind of like, well, they're resigned to the fact that like, yeah, I guess you can stay. There is one character that is she's kind of gets off feelings about stuff like that. Um, but her relationship with him kind of like grows in after she is confronted by Janart, which is the character that she didn't have a good feeling about. They technically like just kick her out, and they're like, "Okay, you're on your own," because I believe the separatists were starting to make more trouble, starting to, I think, search for Etain, um, as well as Darman, who, after being thrown out of the plane, gets united with Etain. Can you talk a little bit about that? Our favorite little guys, favorite friends.
When Darman and Etain meet, I remember Etain was ready to draw her lightsaber on him.
Yeah, for sure. Because Jannar said that there was only one soldier coming, and she was, saying it was Darman. But
Right.
as Etain was like looking for this one soldier, she in the force she could feel only a child, because if you remember, the clones have accelerated aging. So in Etain's force driven mind, she's like, there's a 10-year-old in this forest, not a soldier. Who's what's going on? So she, has her lightsaber, and she's like, oh my gosh, I have to fight somebody and protect this kid, until she is confronted by Darman, and they have their first interaction, which is a little bit awkward, a little bit like hesitant, because they're both like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Um, but it blossoms into something. Do you want to talk about that?
I think actually we're gonna hit a pause here,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
we'll get into that in the next episode of the HoloNet podcast, because we do got some things to attend to, but we'll definitely keep this going in the next episode. We'll be right back.
Absolutely. Bye.